Hello, everyone. Welcome back to When Shooting's Life podcast. I am your host, Kue Lee, along with my co-host, Khang. Today, we have a very special guest by the name of Ben Egelston. He is a master class in Optic, aka should be GM by now, but definitely one of the best shooter in USPSA. And for those who doesn't know, he is my sensei, and I'm his first student. So if anyone trains under him, you must call me Big Brother. So with that being said, how's it going, Sensei?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, Koo.
All right, so before we officially begin this podcast, five random questions. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right, Call of Duty or Battlefield?
Nah, man, I think I'm about to go Call of Duty.
All right, reading a book or listening to an audiobook?
It used to be reading a book, but now it's audiobooks for sure.
I
Yeah.
agree. Do you think it would be a good idea if they have Patrick Starr and Peter Griffin in a show together?
No.
I I disagree with that. I think it would be hilarious. All right, next question. If a grizzly bear and a gorilla gets into a fight, who do you think will win?
Probably the gorilla. I don't know. He can actually use his arms.
Do you know how strong a grizzly bear is, though?
I mean, hey, we'll just leave it to thought, all right? That's a thought
All
experiment.
right, last one. Would you consider it's cheating if you're married, but you also have a girlfriend from a different planet?
Yeah, I mean, probably, right?
Okay. All
Where do
right.
you come up with these?
I
Hey,
come up
Chat
with them, man.
GPT.
All right, man. So that's the five random question. So yeah, man. For those who doesn't know you, can you give us a quick background about yourself?
When do you want to start? Like when I was five, or just
Just anything, man. Just a quick
nah?
background.
We'll keep it USPSA. So my name
Okay.
is
Yep.
Yep.
Ben. I
Some
got
some
into
of the highlights. Some of the
yeah
highlights.
Yep.
yeah. All right, we'll do some of the highlights. So I got into USPSA. I shot my very first match, official indoor match in October of 2021, and I showed up to the range that was hosting the match, and it's actually the range that I still practice at. But that range, I showed up with a little bit of ammo and no idea what was happening. And everybody was super nice. They showed me the ropes and they let me borrow gear because I didn't have anything. And it said beginners welcome. And all of a sudden, I see people with belts, rigs, open guns, all this stuff. And I'm like, wait a second, this isn't beginners. But immediately I was hooked. I got to shoot a Walther Q5 steel frame in my first match, and I hadn't shot a handgun in like 2 years up to that point, and I was really nervous. But I have video of it actually. Maybe I'll send it to Ku and we can clip it in here.
Yep.
But it's hilarious just watching me shoot, and But then I was like, okay, I'm hooked. Like 2 weeks later, I went and bought a Shadow 2.
Are you ready? Ready. Stand by.
Tap it harder.
And I was head first, and I haven't looked back since. But I started with irons with the Shadow 2. Then I knew I wanted to go into carry optics like immediately because the red dots looked cool. I was so used to it from just video games, and something about red dot intrigued me. I'd never really shot with a red dot before. So I got my gun like after, I would say, like January or so. I sent my gun out to get milled, and it took way too long to get back. So fast forward to April of the following year, spring 2022, is when I shot my first outdoor carry optics match with my own stuff. And so that's kind of when I really consider like my first like real introduction to USPSA, is when I had my own equipment um, with carry optics, and then I haven't looked back since. So, but from that point, I was shooting like as many matches as I could. That first year, I took a Ben Steger class at like in August, That was yeah, August of 2022, and then I shot the Minnesota section match, and then I shot the Iowa section match, and I didn't do great at like either of them. Like I did fine, especially since I was only less than a year into it. I would say I did all right. And Tim Dundery's a local shooter. Kue's actually done a podcast with him, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out.
Quick question. When you say all
Yeah.
right, you're like middle of the pack or like
Yeah,
top 25%?
I would need to go back and look at the scores. But I think I was top 20 or top 15, I think.
Nice.
But I would need
Underselling
to,
yourself.
well, I would need to see like, it's like you go back and I don't know, maybe I am, but yeah, I did all right. Anyways, so after that year, I mean, Tim Dundery immediately saw that I had a lot of interest in this, especially since I got all my equipment. But he took me under his wing and mentored me, and he's such a good friend today, and has mentored me even to this day, and just being encouraging. And we go back and forth. But he was the guy to chase for me. So having him in my mind and kind of as a goal, like he was the barometer of locals and everything. And so having someone to chase really helped, but also him at the same time being willing to coach me along the way was so friendly, and is exactly what I needed. Like I don't find myself like overly competitive. Like I'm competitive with myself, but when it comes to wanting to like dominate, that's difficult for me to get into that mindset just because, it's just I'm competitive, but I'm not like a mean competitor, because some people can be really, I don't know, zoned in and like all about them. But anyway, so after that year, I really felt like I learned a lot. And so going into the winter of 2022 to 2023, I had a lot of homework to do. I knew I really didn't know how to shoot a gun. Still, I was like, yeah, I know how to like shoot a gun, but I didn't really know the fundamentals of doubles, of practical accuracy, just kind of the meat and potatoes is what you call it of shooting. So I knew I had a lot of stuff to do. So that's what I worked on over the winter of 2022 into 2023. And following that year, right into spring, I shot locals, and then right in 2023, it was after the first, I think, outdoor match uh, at our local outdoor club in Forest Lake for MAPSA, and I didn't do great. There was a classifier, and I just kind of did a dumpster fire of a match, and then Tim doesn't live too far from that range, so I had to go grab some stuff from him, and we were just talking. He's like don't you're going too fast, like you got to see more and like take the pressure off, and just kind of a little motivational speech. And so the following week I had another match down in Pine Island, which is about an hour south, and for whatever reason, just this mental switch in my mind, just from a fellow shooter who sees you shoot a lot, he was able to diagnose and see what I needed. And it was like a mental switch flipped. And immediately I went from just dumping points to winning matches all of a sudden. And it was really cool to see, because in my mind, I felt like I couldn't slow down. I was like all gas, no brakes the whole time. But he's like, you need to see more. And so, the vision focus kind of from Hwansik, right? It was like an early version of that before it really became popular. But because before I was just shooting at brown, right? You're just like, you see the brown, you smack it. It's like Delta Mike or whatever. It's like, I think I saw it. So from that point, that switch really helped me get into a new mindset. So then from there, I went and shot a major down in South Dakota, and I took second, just by a few points or a few percent from Nick Walden. And then I beat Lane Greaves at that match. If you guys are familiar with him, he's a really awesome shooter as well. But I think he had a kind of a difficult match, to say the least. So maybe it was a little lucky at that point. But then even about a month later in Nebraska, there was a Cornhusker Classic where I was only 6 points from winning that match. So I almost, I maybe shouldn't have discounted myself at that point, but I was seeing progress, and I was seeing that I was actually able to stack up against some good heat. So like Jared Clanton took first, and he's really fast. And I remember being really surprised at how, like, I didn't think I could even come close to getting his scores. And I didn't come close to his time, but I shot really good points, but he was just really fast. So it was a lot of really good shooters. And then after that match was Optics Nationals, and I really didn't have any expectations going into Optics Nationals for 2023. That was my first nationals ever. Again, this is, I would say, just like in my mind, a year and a half into the sport. I was going to my first Optics Nationals, and I ended up taking 19th at that match, and it was like 89 something percent to Christian Saylor. So I've just been kind of grinding, just going and practicing, shooting matches, dry firing, and it's kind of been on that trend where I've been trying to go on an upward trajectory and see the improvements over time. And so then I shot Area 3 that year. I didn't do great. And then I just was feeling really burnt out, like after all the practice, because I was going to, I think I didn't miss a local for 2 months. It was like every weekend for 2 months I was shooting a local match. And after that, I was just like, and then Area 3 came around. I was like, I don't want to be here. I want to be at home playing video games. Like, yeah. And then, but then after the Area 3 performance, I was like so disappointed with myself. I'm like, man, all right, let's see how well I can do it in the Minnesota section. It would be cool to win your own home section match. And so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up winning it. And I felt pretty satisfied. And that was my first level 2 win. Even though there wasn't a bunch of GMs and heat there, I wish there was more, but it's like a win's a win. You got to take it when you can. And you kind of build on those small things over time, and they just build your confidence and your ability to kind of push more. It's like you see the progress, and that's encouraging in of itself. And I think that can be difficult for some people. It's like they don't see the progress, so they are discouraged to practice, or they don't feel like it's working out for them. But it's like if you know how to critique yourself, which I think is something that I'm good at, like I'm pretty detail oriented, and like I know when something feels wrong, so I know how to go and adjust it in dry fire. I think that's helped me along the way as well, not just someone else telling me what to do. Anyways, so then we'll go back. We'll go to 2024. Shoot a few, level 2s around the area, same ones as before. So like the South Dakota and the Nebraska one. And I come in both times. I come in second place at either of those to Langrese, and then I'm like, all right. Oh, then I went to Kentucky, and I actually beat Brantley Miriam at that match, which I was really excited about. I went with Tim to the Kentucky, I forget the exact name. I think it was a Bluegrass State Championship. And so that was a few weeks before nationals. So going into that match, I was kind of feeling sick. Like I had a head cold and everything. And I was like, this is like, Minnesota kind of, weather to hot summer. And it was just beating down on you and feeling sick. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to perform at this match. And then, showed up, game day, kind of just took a bunch of Advil, airborne or whatever, and emergency, and sucked it up. And thankfully, yeah, I shot that match well. And I lost by like 6 points again. It's like all these like super slim margins. You can see behind me, I've got a tux. It's kind of a tux. It actually cost me the match because I threw a mic, like stepped back in, thought I threw a mic, like shuffled back. And anyways, so that's a good reminder of what to practice and always use your vision. So then go to 2024 nationals, and then I took 19th against Eric. It was super cool to have Eric show up. You had all the boys across the pond. It was Eric, I think Edsel, and then Martin Kaminicek. And they took first, second, and third. But I shot 91% against Eric, and I was pretty happy with that. But at the same time, I look back at it, I'm like, well, I don't think he had much sleep. So maybe he didn't have a great match either. So maybe that was also lucky. But anyways, that's kind of a quick wrap up of the past, I guess, few years of my shooting career. So.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. All right. So earlier you mentioned about Tim being your mentor. Do you think you would be able to become the shooter you are today if you were to learn everything on your own?
I'm not sure, actually. I really think having some sort of just coach, I would say, or somebody who's in as interested in shooting as you are to push you. Um, yeah, I do think that this sport is really beneficial from a like kind of a team building aspect where it's like you both know the goal you want, you're going to push each other to get there, and it really helps, especially when you've got someone who's way better than you, especially at the start. So, yeah, I'd have to say it would have taken a lot longer. I would have stumbled around a lot more. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you because, and the reason why I asked you that question is because you and I we started pretty much at the same time. I did my very first match was in 2021, but then I didn't start competing heavily until 2022, and I didn't. So I had to basically learn everything on my own, and I started this podcast the end of last year, and by doing these podcasts, I'm starting to learn way faster. Because I had Tim, I had Luke, Christian, and Chris, all them other on the podcast. So I learned a lot from them, and I feel like doing these podcasts is like a free class for me. So I wish that I would reach out to the top shooters back when I first started. So yeah,
Yeah, I think yeah, if you are just getting into this and you don't have somebody that you immediately think of that would be helpful, what I would say is if you've got people at your local club who are GMs, Ms, just high level shooters, people that are better than you need to go squad with them and you need to not be afraid to squad with them because you're going to see firsthand at matches how they approach things, how they shoot things, how fast they things, and you're just how fast they approach things, how fast they shoot things, how quick they think, just the basic foundation of their skills. You're going to see that all live, and you're going to be like, wow, that's something that's possible, and then you're going to try to do exactly what they do. Go ask them questions then too. People love like you don't get good at the sport and then just kind of bottle it all up. People love
yeah.
to talk about exactly what they're doing. So people are very friendly.
So why do you think you're not a GM yet? Even if you're always ranked up 90% or higher at every major matches you compete in.
Ah man, I mean, to be honest, it's because I really had set the goal in my mind to become a GM by shooting at level twos.
Okay.
I don't like classifiers just because I don't feel like they reflect most shooters' skills. Um, you'll see a lot of people who show up to matches and they just don't perform to their classification. And maybe that's a hot take, but it just seems like it's arbitrary at some point. You get people who well, the hero or zero, and that's coming up upcoming changes that the classifier committee is trying to adjust right now with fixing classifiers, which I'm looking forward to. I think that's a great change. I think having that zero hero mentality in classifiers is not something that you bring to a match. Like it depends on who you are. Like that's what I used to do. I used to try to zero and hero everything, but it's like when it comes to consistency, when it comes to actual match performance, um, then you can't do that. So back to the question, that's why I'm not a GM. I just haven't shot classifiers mainly because I was really hoping to get that goal of level two, but I think we're gonna see it soon. I I think I'm just gonna let that go. There aren't enough GMs shooting the level twos that I want to shoot um, to get the level two match bump to GM or that classification. So I think this might be the season. So
Are you planning to go to the classifier in April?
I'm registered for that.
Okay.
I'm registered for a classifier match. I know that there's going to be some classifier stages at locals that Tim's maybe going to try to make me shoot. We'll see. but I'm not sure if I'll wait till the April classifier or if I'll have a single classifier here and there mixed into just regular weekend matches that gives me the bump. So I don't know. Maybe I got some thinking to do because I think there's a weekend or a classifier this weekend as well. And the weather's looking pretty good. And the last time it was 10 degrees and snowing and
Yeah.
I hunted a classifier. So
Yeah, I saw.
yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that one. That was pretty good,
Yeah.
man.
I slipped on ice as
Yep.
well. It was
Ouch.
it was something.
Ouch.
No, I didn't hit the ground, thankfully. I caught myself, but I still hunted it. I wish I had a video, but yeah. Might be the first time that's happened.
So, how did it feel when you ranked higher than Watson Kim during the 2024 Carrier Optic National?
Um, that it's one of those things where when it comes to nationals, I'm not really like sure I'm looking at the people who are at the match who I have beaten surpassed, but when it comes to it, I'm really more interested in like my own personal performance. Like, wow, like I was able to do that. That's really cool. Like that was my ability on that day. And everybody on that list who's in the top 20, top 25 has, I feel like, the ability to push beyond what they've done. And there's so many circumstances that go into nationals. It's a 3-day match. You're away from home. You're like usually off of a time zone. So like Quansick, I think, is 2 hours off. I'm 1 hour off. So I just feel like there's so many variables when it's that tight at the top that it's like any given Sunday or like any given stage, right? Like I had a stage that I bombed. I should have been maybe 14th or 13th. And it's like you look at that and it's so tight. So I don't know what Juan 6 match looked like, but how did it feel? I mean, yeah, it's cool, but consistency over time will tell the real story. If I'm able to continue to do that, if Hansik is maybe just had a bad day, or a bad match, but yeah, Hansik's an awesome guy. I've had the pleasure of sitting down with him after matches, one at time at Area 3, and then even at 2024 Chaotix Nationals, we got to sit down and talk for a little while, and he was asking me like, what's my training routine like? So I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, hey, yeah. So
Yeah, the reason why I mentioned Hwasong Kim because for those who doesn't know, Hwasong Kim is definitely one of the best shooter out there, and you know, for someone like you to beat Hwasong Kim when you just first start, well, you started this sport not too long ago. I think that's amazing. So that's why
thank you. I
I
appreciate it.
asked him. Yeah, I asked you about that. All right, so for someone who just started in this sport not too long ago, what do you think? What do you think you do differently to be as good as the top shooter in this sport that has been shooting this sport for many years?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what it comes down to is, uh, I mean, it's like there's personality types, and I'm competitive with myself. I've grown up doing individual sports like skateboarding and snowboarding, and those are things that I've had to teach myself. I have an older brother, but and he did those. So like when I saw him do it, I was like, I want to do that. But my brother wasn't like very much help when it came to learning how to skateboard. It was like, okay, like I get to watch my brother do that, and now I want to learn how to do that and teach myself that. So I think it comes down to having the ability to kind of self-teach, or like self-analyze is really what I'm getting after, is like you and thankfully with all the tutorials out there, I feel like it's easier than ever. Almost maybe too much information sometimes. It's like it's hard to distinguish what to actually practice. But for me, it was getting good at the fundamentals. When I went back, okay, going back to the 2021 very first fall match. There's a local shooter. He doesn't shoot much anymore, but his name is Logan Toland, and he's a three gun
Yep,
shooter. He's really fast, and when I
yep.
saw him, I immediately knew. I was like, "This is amazing!" Like he is like going blazing fast. I'm like, I want to do that. Like And then when I saw the people who were just kind of shooting like that, I'm like, nah. I'm like, that's not very. I'm like, I want to go blazing fast. And so immediately, right out of the gate, I'm like, I was trying to replicate the speed. I was trying to replicate the just like the Call of Duty run or like the fast burn it down. And so I started building my skills with speed in mind, like everything as fast as possible, drawing as fast as possible, reloading as fast as possible, shooting as fast as possible, and then like moving as fast as possible. And then obviously, once you kind of practice all of that or like have that mindset of like, this is what I want, and you then start to refine it over time. And that refining process is, it's still ongoing even to this day. And then you got to find that balance of how much, like, where am I putting my movement? Where am I putting my effort? Yeah, there's just a lot more details. But anyways, that's kind of a long-winded answer.
Did you concentrate on speed first, or did you concentrate on accuracy?
Speed.
Speed.
Yeah, it was speed for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
accuracy came last. Like I think I was having like, man, I should go back and look at some practice score records, but every match it seemed like I had no less than three mics. Uh, it was always a coin toss of like, is this stage gonna be good? I'm like, ding! Oh, three mics. Sorry, like, oh, hey, we got clean. Uh, yeah, so it's definitely speed, and it comes back from that just wanting to go fast. Because if you look at the sport, right, the sport of USPSA is speed and accuracy. And if you've got accuracy, well, cool. I mean, but if you don't got the speed, then all right, you're just left by the curb, and you can have all the accuracy you want, and it's not going to matter. So
Quick question for you. So, since you're still a relatively new shooter, because you've only been doing this for like what 3-4 years now, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I've actually got a group of guys that I'm just kind of training from the ground up, and so this is something I'm trying to do a little bit different because I've been teaching like concealed carry stuff for gosh maybe coming up on like 8-9 years now. So just a lot of like new shooters type of stuff, and so my background is range master, and so I have a range master certification, and so just coming from that background, a lot of it is just good fundamentals and having good trigger control, trigger prep, a good sight alignment, sight picture stuff like that. So I was listening to Ben Steger talk about that, and the question kind of came up of when you're teaching a new shooter, do you teach them to be accurate or you teach them to be fast, right? And he recommends actually going more fast than accurate, and that's a little bit different than what I've usually done. Usually I do okay, good sight alignment, good sight alignment, sight picture, good grip, good stance, and then smooth trigger press until the break, right? And so that was very interesting for me because my thought was always that if you can't hit the target, then you can't really go fast. So what are your thoughts on that as somebody who is still relatively new to this, but still doing amazingly well?
Um, yeah, that's a good question, and I haven't had the chance to teach too many new shooters who've like shot their handgun for the first time. When it comes, like I've had the opportunity to teach a friend, and I taught her. Obviously, it was for like her first time firing a handgun to be slow and accurate, and get used to the recoil going off in your hands. So like when it comes to a brand new shooter, I would say, yeah, don't teach them speed right away. But if they're in like an intro, if they're like interested in USPSA and they've got the gear, the equipment, the investment already into it, then I would say, yeah, throw them at some speed and see what happens because you're gonna find out what falls apart quick. Like if they can shoot relatively like good groups, then let's speed it up a little bit. Usually it seems like people who are, I guess, floating around the C and the B area is like they're lacking that speed. And I guess, but from the angle of conceal and carry and that like maybe more of like a self-defense scenario, then again, if they're new shooters, then teaching them to be accurate. I don't know. It's so important. I listen to so many different topics on this because obviously you watch a lot of police cam footage and body cam footage, and you see these cops who are just trying to pull the trigger as fast as they can, but they're not really hitting anything. It's like, well, did you know you can do both? Like you could actually do both, by the way. You can just have to practice it. So I think it depends on who the shooter is in their shooting journey, where they are. And it's like you can open their mind and open their eyes and be like, this is what's possible with a handgun. You can be fast and accurate. It really just comes down to the amount of like what they're doing with their eyes on the target and how they're bringing the gun to the target and what they're doing with their hands and their grip, because it's more than just shooting. It's like grip pressure. I don't really think about the trigger too much, to be honest. Like maybe if I'm doing single hand stuff, then I'm really more concerned about what my triggers or my fingers doing to the trigger, when it comes to like strong hand or weak hand shooting. But yeah, I think it's everything, like accuracy and speed. Yeah. it's it's not a super solid answer, but it depends. I really feel like it is. Yeah.
I think you do have a solid point there because you're talking about the trigger press that, if you're trying to run like a bill drill, right? You don't really think about the trigger press, right? You really think
there's
about
no time to.
no, it's you grab the gun, right? And then that sight picture you got, that's the sight picture you got, and then you got that good grip, and then you just grip it and rip it.
Yeah. Usually what I'm thinking about with a bill drill is what my support hand is doing. Like what I'm thinking about is, okay, did my support hand get on there good enough? Am I squeezing hard enough? Now I can rip the trigger. And if that didn't happen and I pull the trigger too soon, I shoot a double action, single action gun. I shoot a 10 folio stock too. So I've got a double action, single action to worry about. So if like I don't get my support hand on there and I'm really trying to rip, that shot's gonna go like to the C zone or to like the D zone. Like I've got to make sure it's up, and that can go away with training and specific stuff like that. But yeah, when it comes to fast shooting, I'm not thinking about my finger at all. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Speaking of the bill drill, I wasn't able to do the bill drill until uh I learned from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah, yeah, dude.
That's
Remember,
right.
yeah, when you were training me, man, I had a hard time doing the bill drill, but after that session with you, and then I went and practiced on my own. Yeah, I noticed a big difference, dude. So yeah, so
Love to
yeah,
hear
I
it.
yeah, I highly recommend anyone who wants to train with you. I recommend you. People to train with you.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if anybody wants to train with me locally, reach out and we can set something up. It'd be fun. It's fun to show people the things that I've learned, and if anybody has specific questions and they want to go to the range, let's do something. So
but remember to call me Big Brother.
yeah, or yeah, or Padawan, or I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, during your walkthrough, what do you look for?
So through a walkthrough. Let's think about this. I haven't shot an outdoor match in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a bit. When I'm going through a walkthrough, I'm looking for where my first position is going to be. I'm looking at all the spots on the ground where I'm trying to hit. If there's a strange foot position on a fault line, all of these little meticulous details that you don't think matter, uh, they can shave time off a lot. Like being efficient with how you move. Like if you got like a shape like this or like some weird shape, you're trying to draw, like I'm kind of mentally trying to draw like a lines to the shortest, uh I guess the quickest point A to point B to point C, the most efficient that shows me as many targets as possible from like a reasonable area. I'm not trying to take, this is something that I've been burned on a lot. If I can take a steel closer and I try to take it from further away for no reason and I throw mics at it, I'm just wasting time. So it's like be smart with how how you can shoot. Like if you can shoot something from a certain angle or you're practicing some weird distance, then sure you can try to practice that. And it's good if you want to use locals as practice for that kind of stuff too, that's good. But what I'm looking for is just the details, foot positions on like spots on the ground, foot positions on certain things. Uh, yeah, that's really it. And just a flowy, like what I can move on. It depends on, yeah, like how much movement I can put in, transitions, and if I can take everything on the move, then you're gonna take everything on the move. You're not gonna plant. I think that's what a lot of new shooters are afraid to do is shoot on the move as well. But that comes with time. It really does. It's something that like if you're shooting on a move on the move on a 25-yard tux, that's it's gonna be a hard shot for anybody. So just shoot within your limits, and then also push your limits if you've only got locals to shoot at. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about when people always talk about like counting your steps? Do you think that's just a myth, or do you think that's something that people should think about?
I I don't think I've like maybe I could probably count on one or two hands the amount of times I've like legitimately counted steps and been like, this is a game changer. Oh, this one's one
Yeah.
step shorter. It's like, all right, is that really gonna cost me the match or like the stage, or is me actually shooting good points and in a reasonable, like a really fast time? Yeah, I don't if it's working for you, then yeah, I'd be interested to hear what the top guys say, but I don't feel like counting your steps is really the best strategy. I don't think like that minute. I feel it kind of go based more on feel than
Yep.
anything. It's like if this feels right, like if for whatever reason going left to right feels better than going right to left, then I'm gonna go that route. Yeah. So, and usually the better feel is the one that takes less steps anyways. So if the stage is designed well, and Tim designs great stages, so
Yep. Yeah, because the reason why I asked you that, because a lot of people, I noticed that when some people they do the walkthrough, they're always counting their steps, and in my opinion, I don't think counting your step matters. I think it's where you stop matters. Like if you, because like someone taller could take 3 step, and then someone like my height, 5'6", I might need to take 5 steps to get there. But I feel like
sure.
as long as you're aggressive with your movement and you landed where you need to be, that's all it matters. Because some people may take more steps than you, but they're faster too. So that's why I don't think counting your steps is a game changer or it really matters. So
Yeah, that's yeah, I think that's a good insight.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think about during your make ready?
So this is something that I've developed kind of from watching Tim shoot a lot, and this is why I say watch better shooters is because you'll pick up on the small details. And Tim's make ready is it's pretty straightforward, right? You are you're up at the line, you do sight picture, or you make sure your dot brightness is where it needs to be. Always do that. I had a dot go out on me on my make ready checking my dot brightness. So yeah, thankfully I was able to go to a safety table and replace the battery. But so you check your dot brightness, make sure that's good. And I do a kind of a visual last run through that takes probably 30 seconds depending on the size of the stage. And I know maybe that's a GM make ready, right? You get the quintessential GM make ready that takes too long. I try to be quick, but I look at the spot on the ground that I'm gonna go, like every spot that I'm gonna try to hit. I like kind of will turn back if it's behind me. I got like a retreat start, look behind me, then I'll look at the first target, then I'll look at the next target, and I'm just indexing on every single target that I have to go to in every single position, and just reminding myself of my stage plan, and that kind of locks it in, right? It's like, okay, now I know what to do. Let's just execute. I've been running through it already for the past two, three shooters, depending on how many are in the stage or in the squad. And that gives you that last 30 seconds really gives you the confidence to uh, just execute the stage plan. One thing I will say, uh, that I've found beneficial is when you are the on deck shooter and it's like your stage to go and walk through. I like to, as much as possible, do a full movement, like full speed movement from position to position. That kind of gets the butterflies and the jitters out. Whatever, for whatever reason, that really helps. Like you're going through and you're running really hard to that position, then you're running to the next position, and when you do it full speed, then it's a good reminder of like what kind of effort you need to put in. And sometimes you'll even find something like, okay, be careful on that spot because I almost slipped. And then you won't find that when you got your gun in your hand. So I say when you've got the opportunity to do a full like speed walkthrough as well, then take advantage of that.
When you move position to position, do you look at the ground while you're running, or do you just go based on feelings?
You can, it's funny because you can actually see, so like if in the 2024 Caracas Nationals, this last one, there's a few stages where you can see me like deliberately looking at the position for like an extended period of time where I'm like this, and then once I know I'm like coming into that position and like decelerating, then I go back to the target. And so like I
Mm,
will look, I'll watch it, and then when I'm like just about to come in and I need to get my eyes back up on the target, then I get my eyes on, and then
mm,
I'll decelerate. So it's like if I have the opportunity to be looking at a target and like shooting, then I don't think I'll be like looking at the position. Like I'll glance at it and get to that position. But if I've got like let's say it's a far like a covered wall and I can come into that position really hard, then I'll be looking at the position longer and then I will then get my eyes up as I'm decelerating in. So but yeah, it's like you want to look at where you're going. That's why you're cueing that mentally in the walkthrough. You're looking at the position because you're actually trying to find that position. It's not something that you just are doing for fun.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. How does your practice look like, and how do you know what you're practicing will help you with your match performance?
Yeah, so right now my practice has just been a lot of dry fire based on what I'm feeling is lacking from last season. Right now that's reloads. My reloads feel kind of weird. They're getting a lot better and I'm learning a lot. And I feel like I'm getting more consistent, which is good because I could be dry firing more. So with the amount of dry fire that I'm doing, which is only a few times a week, I feel like I'm figuring things out every time, and it motivates me to be like, okay, I need to dry fire more, like at least once a day for 15 to 20 minutes. But when I do dry fire, it seems like I get locked in and I really enjoy dry fire when I start doing it. So I like usually do it for like 20 to 45 minutes at a time. And I know for some that seems like a lot, but it's like when you get in the zone, it becomes a game. And that's why I enjoy it. I enjoy gaming and I turn it into like a little game. And like you feel like the progress of dry fire is yeah, I don't know. There's just some satisfaction to it of just getting better and like being able to like yeah, I'll show up to a match and like I know what I'm bringing to the table. Like you don't show up unprepared. It's like not preparing for a school presentation. Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you show up to a match and you get mad at yourself, it's like, well, what's the reason? Did I dry fire? Should I be mad? Like if I'm putting all this work in and I'm sucking, then I'd be a little frustrated. But if I'm not doing the work and I'm sucking, I'd be like, ah, whatever. Yeah.
Give me some tips for your reloads because right now, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. One of the things I'm trying to do is trying to do tip of finger to tip of magazine, and then I'm trying to look the magazine into the mag well.
Yeah. So what right now, my rig is set up so bullets are
Mhm.
out. I think yours are bullets forward,
Mhm.
but I think the same concept still applies. So I've been playing with looking at my belt when I'm
Mhm.
waiting to do like an unloaded start, let's say. And I guess this is really kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm doing like some reloads and unloaded starts.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to an unloaded start, I am looking at my first mag pouch and I'm looking at a certain spot on it. And then I let my firing hand, scoot or grab the gun, but I'm following the mag like in like this, and it's kind of a strange phenomenon because it happens so fast, but it's like I'm so focused on the mag that I'm like watching it in, and for some reason that's been helping. I don't know if that's something that will stick because I've not always had to do that, and I've been able to nail unloaded starts. Like I kind of like focus my vision in the middle, like this, kind of like between my feet, in like kind of the space between your chest and the ground. It's kind of weird, and then like I'll find it there and be able to find it. Anyways, that doesn't always work. But when it comes to reloads, I'm not like an expert on reloads. I know like there's a lot of more qualified people like Rob Epifania. Um, yeah, he's really the only one that comes to mind. Travis Tomasi, I think he's got some good stuff. Uh, but let's see. So you're saying mag, like you're watching your mag insert, right?
Yeah. So the whole proprioceptive index thing, right? Is I go finger. Well, this is what I'm trying to do right now, and it's working okay for me. But I'm like I said, I'm still very new to this, right? So finger like this. So this way I have a good index point there, and then as I'm coming up, then I can index that tip of the finger to the bottom of my hand. So that gives me a good reference point.
Got it.
What are your some
Yeah.
recommendations on that?
The only thing that I would say is like you don't want to smash your finger.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that's like one of the things that I kind of grab a little lower, or I almost kind of bend my finger around the mag so my fingertip isn't going to get jammed into it. Because if
Like
there's like
this.
any yeah, like maybe yeah, almost like that. Or
Okay.
let me grab my belt. 1 second.
Yep, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that is a good question that you're asking because I'm scared of like putting my finger too close to the tip of the mag. Yep.
Almost like kind of instead of like
Mhm.
this, it's
Mhm.
more like this, where it's like wrapped kind of to
Mm.
the side of it like that.
Okay.
And or lower like
Mhm.
this, and so not so high up. um yeah, that might be more like it, because I also, so here's like the bullets out, you know. Yeah, that's kind of more like the way I grab it, but I think that's, you're right on the right track. So
God, it just means more dry fire. More dry
yeah, I
fire.
mean it really does. And there's I think it's the per cut reloads, I forget.
Mhm.
um and that's where you do like you draw halfway into your magwell, and then you can set another part-time if you're working on a part-time, and then you can insert after that. But it's just getting your mag half inserted into your mag while with fully inserting it. And you can run that drill a while. And that's a good, yeah, I think it's called I forget the official name, but I can send it to you after.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Ku, am I up with my questions?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, just about, what are some of those, where should a new shooter start? Whether it's focusing on that trigger press versus that grip. And then you were saying that, when you're shooting at speed, you don't really think about the trigger press too much, which is, yeah, that's definitely what I've experienced too, trying to chase like sub 2 second build drills and things like that.
Yeah.
So kind of following up on that, what's some bad advice that you keep hearing? I know we all have our own pet peeves.
Um, I don't know if I hear too much bad advice from USPSA shooters, honestly.
Okay, yeah, if you're talking about USPSA, you're probably going to get good advice. But when you go to the gun store or when you talk to those friends or those family, what are some things that usually pops up? Or if for some reason you go to a comment section, what are
I
some of
usually
those bad?
ignore all of it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, just ignore all of it. I mean, to be honest, I'm like, yeah, whatever I read online, it's probably garbage.
Mhm,
Like if it's not coming from a specific like
mhm,
a USPSA or like a competitive shooter's standpoint, then I usually kind of disregard the information if I'm
mhm,
being completely honest. It's like I'm not an instructor myself, but I'm an enthusiast, right? Like I'm a competitor. I am somebody who kind of started from a clean slate. And so my whole world has been competitive shooting. And so I frame everything from around that lens. And it's fun to see kind of what comments are out there because they come from people who are usually a lot less serious about training. And usually it's like, man, they don't know what they're talking about. I don't know. Yeah. So,
I think you make an excellent point with that. That's something that I teach or I tell to a lot of new shooters is that, especially in the competitive space, it's extremely well optimized, right? And it's like if you jump into a new game for the first time, right? You've never played Call of Duty before. Well, there's all these options, there's all these things. You know what guns are viable, what guns are not viable, what strategies are viable or not, right? And you don't know. And if you talk to pros who do that, then they're going to say, yeah, these things are viable. These are strategies that we use, and these are the techniques and why you use them. And so I think you have an excellent point with that. That there's the guys in the USPSA say they want to win, and so there's a current meta. There's specific guns that run really well, and you're going to see like a bunch of the top shooters using them. And you said that you use a Tanfo, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started with the meta with the Shadow 2, right? It seems like the most popular Care Optics gun there is, besides like maybe some like SIG and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I feel like SIG and Shadow 2s are really the most common. Tanfo's, the reason I swapped to Tanfo was because it just felt better in my hand. And Tanfo Timmy got me on that Tanfo grind. It just felt better and bigger in my hand. The beaver tail is a little longer. I've got pretty big hands, so I would say I have like XL hands. And compared to the Shadow 2, it just felt a little bigger. And it's kind of got a more of a magwell than the Shadow 2 does as well. So I just felt like it was a better platform, and I think it looks sweet. I think this chrome finish looks better than a Shadow 2. And I had gotten my Shadow 2 like pimped out. I thought I would never sell it, and I sold it. So,
I was gonna buy it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, you were.
Do you have your Tanfo on you right now, or somewhere close? And if
I
you
do
do,
have
can
it.
you just show us how you grip?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
love to
sure.
see it.
Yeah, because last time when I was training with Ben, dude, his grip is like I wouldn't say super different, but it's different from a lot of other shooters that I see. So that's why I want him to show um how he gripped the Tanfo.
Also, shout out John Vlieger with the dry fire mags, the dry fire insert. They're pretty sweet. You can
How
dry
do you
fire at the
like
safe table.
those?
I like them. They're easier to maintain or like easier than snap caps because if you drop a mag and like a miss
Mhm,
reload, you don't have
mhm.
snap caps flying everywhere.
Mm. Nice.
All right, the gun's clear, internet. The gun's clear. Um, all right, so let me pull up my screen so I can actually see what I'm doing. So here's here's my gun. I get my hand high up under the beaver tail like this. I wrap my fingers kind of high like that. I leave a nice opening for my support hand to come in. And I really am like, there's some good callus on there, and it's kind of hard to see with my crappy webcam. But I bring my support hand in like this into the open spot, and then I'm really clamping down. You can see like my fingers are kind of white knuckling, but my support hand is really doing the grabbing. And like I will do about 30%. I don't know, percentages are kind of arbitrary in some cases, but I'm gripping here with these fingers a little bit. I bring this hand in, and then let's see. This is really gives you the best picture.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see like this. I don't do any like Eric Graffel, no Eric Graffel thing like that. It's a pretty standard grip, I guess, but it lets me shoot without the dot moving too much.
Which grip are you using on your Tanfo?
So these are actually, I did switch these recently. This is they're still Patriot defense grips, but
Mhm.
instead of the like big low palm swell. It's the palm swell high, I think is what they call them, or I call them like the mids. And I've actually been enjoying these quite a bit. I think it's been helping my shooter's elbow a little bit as well. So yeah, it's more comparable to I think you'll see the brass lock grips quite a bit on Shadow 2s. I think Christian uses those, and yeah, just the profile of them is a little more standard because on the other Patriot Defense grips, you have such a shelf, and it's such a low shelf as well that I felt like my left support hand was really leveraging into the to the plate or into the panel, the grip panel, like a lot. So I'm gonna run it for a while. It's brass. My other ones are aluminum, so I think I'm getting like a little more recoil control with this, or just a little extra weight. How much that will help, I'm not sure. But it's been feeling good lately. And I've actually also switched to the 507 comp from the SRO just to test it out. But I think there's a little crack at the top of my optic, which is hard to tell on the camera, but I might have to get that arm made or something. So maybe not a good sign. We'll see.
What do you think of speaking of the Hollow-Sun 507 comp? I know that their max size is the standard dot is two MOA.
Yeah.
What's your opinion between 2 MOA versus 5 MOA?
So my SROs are 5 MOA,
Hmm.
and I've been shooting those since I've started, and those are fine. I again now I've been since I've been shooting like I shot all of them every match, every major match up to this point with SRO. So just for the off season, I've gone with the 507. But dot size comparison, I like the 2 MOA on this dot quite a bit, and I'm using just the standard reticle. I'm not using any like the weird
Hmm.
crap that like Call of Duty reticles that they throw in here. With like the circle, the dot, like just the circle. Like what the heck is that trash? I don't know who in the world is using that kind of stuff, but man, maybe it's people who like have the eyesight of a bat. I don't It's like it's so bizarre to me. I'm like, who in the heck?
Do,
Me, I'm guilty.
Oh no.
But the reason why is because so I started with a circle dot because
I'm
I was
so
still new to dots.
sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine because it was a crutch. I was new to circle dots, right? Well, I was new to red dots, right? And so I could find that with the circle dot that my presentation could be a little bit sloppier, and then I could pick up on more of that circle. And so as
Interesting.
I'm shooting more, I'm starting to try to shoot faster or shoot at distance or shoot smaller size targets. The circle is just way too distracting. I'm like, okay, well, in order to complete this course of fire, I need to turn off the circle. Then I start realizing, well, I'm good enough now that I don't need the circle anymore. It's like the training wheel. I don't really need it anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. For a rifle application, sure, but for a pistol application, I don't think you really need
Yeah,
it.
I mean my rifle optic, it's the Vortex AMG, like the little barn house, it's their
Mm-hmm.
holosight. So that's got
Mm-hmm.
like the bunch of little reticles in there. That's fine. But when it comes to pistol stuff, I feel like extra noise like that just doesn't really help
Mm-hmm.
me. It's not really doing much. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What was the question? Who?
Oh, I was gonna ask you, did you notice any major difference between the 5 and 2? So for example, I was shooting the SRO 5 MOA, and then now I'm switching back to the 2.5 MOA because I feel like um it's easier to target focus with a smaller dot. Because I feel like for me, with my vision, I feel like the 5 MOA is too distracting. So even though I put the tape over my dot, I noticed that I tend to like during my transition, I kind of noticed that I'm focusing on that 5 MOA dot. So I
Yeah.
switch it back, and ever since I switched back to the 2.5 MOA, I was able to get more alphas. So I was just wondering if you noticed any difference, or was it just me?
Um, right now, besides the difference in the dot size, I think the biggest shift for me is I before have been shooting like I shot 2023 Nationals completely occluded the entire match. I didn't shoot with the dot uncovered for a single stage. And going back, I guess, to kind of piece this answer together, I've been moving away from shooting occluded just because I feel like I'm trying to see if it's making me faster or if the occlusion was making me slower. Um, yeah, but I I think that would be the biggest thing for me is what would be changing my speed isn't really the MOA of the dot necessarily. It would be rather the if I'm shooting occluded on like close stuff or just things like that. So, but I can't say like I've held up the 5 MOA SRO and the 2.5 MOA SRO together and side by side, and depending on the brightness, I don't see that there's too much of a difference, but I think I'm leaning to liking smaller dots right now.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's my preference is a smaller dot. So yeah, if I could trade in my SROs for a 2.5 from a 5, I think I would. So
I think
yeah.
that's the trend now. A lot of GMs I've been listening to, they're switching to small dots.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. There's something to it then. All right.
I know Stager's really been liking smaller dots. I think Billy Barton's moving to smaller dots too.
Okay.
Um, those are just some of the guys I know off the top of my head. Oh, really quick. So for our viewers who don't really know what we're talking about occluded, so essentially, if you take your pistol dot, right, and then a lot of guys will actually put a piece of tape on the front, so you can still see the dot, you just can't see out of it. And so what it does is that forces you to focus on the target, so that way your non-dominant eye sees the target, your dominant eye sees the dot, and then your brain will merge the two pictures together. And it's a really good way to learn target focus. So that way you're not focused on the dot, you're focused on the target. And then when the dot shows up on the target, bang, pull the trigger.
It's a really trippy experience when you like do it for the first time. So back to when I got into shooting and back in 2022, really, um, I remember occluding for the first time in dry fire, and I was like, "There's the target!" Like I saw the target for the first time. I was like, "What the heck?" It was bizarre, and I'm like, "Okay, I think there's something to this." And again, being someone who really hadn't shot many handguns, like I had maybe like 500 rounds lifetime, maybe less up to that point of shooting my first USPSA match, and then going headfirst into competitive shooting and shooting thousands of rounds a year. It was quite a difference. So learning how to shoot a red dot was something that, I could use all the help I could get, and occlusion really helped with that. So, and now I'm trying to wean myself off of it.
Awesome. That's really cool to hear your perspective on it. Kind of following up with that. So we were talking about video games earlier. So you have a very interesting perspective, right? So you said that you
Yeah.
love gaming, and you said that gaming is actually one of the skills that has really kind of integrated itself into helping you shooting. Explain that.
Okay, so I've been a gamer since I can pretty much remember. I grew up playing Call of Duty sitting on my dad's lap. It was like the very first Call of Duties I grew up playing, even some of the earliest Counter-Strikes. And growing up, playing Halo. Halo is like the first game that I've really fell in love with. And I remember my dad and my brother came home with an Xbox, and they came home with a rated M game. Oh. And it was Halo. And ever since Halo, it's just been uh, a love for FPS games. So that's another place where I've just been really competitive is with FPS shooters, and really, it's just kind of snowballed. Like I've always been a gamer, and I really do contribute my like success, or at least a mentality towards shooting based on how I've played video games. So in college, I was on the collegiate esports team for the University of Minnesota, and it's like, I don't know where it is these days, but esports has just only blown up. And at that point, it was getting big, and now it's just even bigger than ever. So, but I was able to, I played Rainbow Six Siege against other colleges, and that was we were like a pretty competitive team, but it's like all of those kind of games. And then I played Overwatch, and then I played even PUBG, and it's just basically being competitive in video games. I feel like has translated to being competitive on a stage or at a match. And like shooting in my mind is like it's just another shooting challenge. Same with Call of Duty, same with Battlefield, same with, PUBG, same with whatever. I'm trying to take kind of the same concepts of like you see the bad guy, and in this sense, you see the brown target first. You're trying to shoot it as fast as you can. You're trying to get through a stage as fast as possible. And when it comes to games like Call of Duty, I like to play on hardcore because I'm also a PC gamer, so I know they do cross-platform these days, so it's easy to dumpster on console kids. So it's like you'll get the kids who just don't have the reaction time or who can't react as fast, but it's almost good training because like you see them first, and that's why like hardcore is because you can pretty much run any gun you want, and if you see them first, they're usually gonna die. And so it almost becomes kind of reaction training at that point. It's like you get through as many enemies as you can before they get you. You respawn, you do it again, and it's just addictive. It's like a super addicting loop. And it's kind of the same with a stage, right? Like you go like at a match, you go stage to stage to stage, and each one is a new challenge. But this time you actually know where all the targets are, and you know exactly what needs to be done. And then obviously you're not just sitting behind a keyboard and mouse, and you aren't just moving your wrist, and you actually have to run. You've got to control recoil. You've got to control stress. Like there's just, but that mentality of going fast, and when you see brown, right, you shoot, and that's how I got into it. And going back to how I had to rein that in was I saw brown and I would shoot. And that was kind of like a video game. Like I would see the enemy and I would just start shooting, right? And you're using your vision though. It's a very visual thing. Like you see something, you shoot it. Same with USPSA. So anyways.
Do you have like any game footage you could show us and walk us through?
Well, Q, I might. Yeah, I might.
All right, show us.
All right, we're gonna jump in. And it's 1:46. I don't know if you want me to play the whole thing through, and then we can just talk about it afterwards. And you can just watch me kick some kids' butts. So
it's up to you, man. You could play the whole thing, or you could talk while playing the video. It doesn't matter. It's up to you.
Let me just share, and we can see if the quality looks all right. And what we'll do is I'll play the whole thing. You can watch me kick some butt for a little bit, and then we can kind of break down some sections that can translate to shooting and kind of where my thought process is. So,
okay.
All right. Y'all ready?
Yep.
We've lost Alpha. Specialist achieved.
Coming from the barn,
Securing objective Alpha. Control Alpha.
And they're about to take it.
How? How do you?
Alpha secure.
Oh, they're coming up with the play.
Yeah, they were. Gosh.
Turret ready. Enemy securing Charlie. Enemy securing Bravo. Taking Charlie. Strike ready. Charging mags. All ready for tasking. Securing Alpha. Enemy's dead. Securing objective Alpha. Advanced standing by. I'm reloading.
So going back to some of these clips here, let me go to this clip here. So this is one where I'm running through a doorway, and this isn't really too relatable from a like a USPSA perspective, but like just the reaction time when it like takes a seat, like you see something, right? Like you're always expecting to see something in a video game. You're always expecting to see an enemy, so you've got to be ready. So usually in the game, I'll run like a really low ADS time, so aim down sensitivity, or like aim down sight time. So, but like this next kill here, when I'm jumping through the window, I'm looking like I'm strafing, and then I kind of equate this to like a swinger, right? Let's say you've got a swinger in a stage, and you see like the last available brown, and it's shot calling, right? So I've got this enemy going up the stairs here on the right. I see that, and I can adjust, and I can make that shot. I'm doing it with my wrist, but when it comes to like at a stage with my gun in my hand, I see brown, I'm able to quickly adjust and shoot. And like, oh, I know that's there. And shot calling is another thing that you really have to develop as a shooter, is knowing where your dot was when you pulled the trigger and trusting yourself where that bullet went, and then being able to move on. Because what you'll see a lot of people doing is they are kind of standing there. They wait. There's extra time per target because they aren't exactly sure where the shot went. So I feel like video games have kind of ingrained in my mind exactly what I'm doing. Like I know I know that enemy died because I can see the kill confirm, but I also am trusting my sights, right? So it's like I get my eyes there first, I shoot, and I move on, right? I get that confirmation. So it's like in my mind at matches, sometimes like you got like mini hit markers going off in your head. And steel, obviously, they make noise. So like let's go for this one here. Like this is another instance where I'm expecting, like I know there's an enemy down there because of the sound context and the cues, and they were just shooting. So I'm expecting an enemy to be up in the upper rafter, and then I got this enemy down here below. So I don't see the enemy first. I see the ground enemy first. So let's say this is like a double swinger. You've got a presentation. Maybe you see one swinger first, and then you get like a glimpse of another swinger coming by, and you have like just a moment to shoot it. But because you're able to shot call it, it's a good hit. So like right here, I shoot this enemy. This enemy appears all of a sudden, and now I move my eyes and I can adjust, and then boom, it's like that's a kill. So I was able to get those 2 kills consecutively because I'm able to register that information, move my eyes, and shoot. So like that's really kind of what I'm breaking down in my head, is like video games, at least for me, because I've been playing them so long, are able to build that kind of mind muscle, eye visual stuff. It's like I'm always looking for the next thing. It's like you're trying to work as fast as you possibly can. So and like here's another example where I kill these 2 guys, but then I start getting shot at, and I don't know where that enemy's coming from. Or like I can see the bullets flying past me, but he's missing. I know there's a shot behind me, so I have to quickly turn and like assess, and so I can see, oh, there he is right there over to the right. And like I get my eyes there, so my eyes are there, and I'm shooting, and then I smoke them. So it's like it's quickly getting your eyes from target to target to target, and it looks like inhumanly possible when it's like from just like people who are on the outside who like don't game much, but like when it comes to people like who play collegiately, it's just common. Like you see this all the time, but when you get kind of casual gamers, they're like, wow, that's hacks. And so you'll hear over the comms and like report. It's like, man, if you guys knew what I did for fun on the weekends, like maybe you would say something different. Like I've always felt like dropping my YouTube link, like go check this out, and calling me a hacker now. Like, but yeah, like here's another instance. Like we'll go back to these 2 kills. So I look there, I don't see that guy, and then I see these 2 enemies here. So we'll talk like target transition. So I know the accelerator drill. You've got a target at 25, 15, and 10, and this is kind of a mini accelerator here. And I know I'm using an automatic rifle, but There's two enemies, but they're stacked. You've got one closer and you've got one further. And I know you don't have to deal with recoil, but I'm able to get my eyes from target to target. So right there, and then I see this enemy here, and I'm already transitioning the second I know that that enemy's eliminated. It's like boom, 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 boom. And the same thing is going on in my mind when I'm shooting. It's like the second I know that shot has broken and I've called it, and I've called it because I know that where the dot was when the target went. It's like boom, boom, like on that recoil of that last shot, I'm transitioning. So these are the small little things that I've felt that have just kind of slowly over time have been put into my brain, mixed with kind of the competition that I have with myself, like in the individual sports. And I don't know, it's kind of a way I've felt I've gotten better is because of video games, and it hasn't hurt, let's say. Like it's helped me get these visual cues in, and it's helped translate it to the field. And in the instance of Rainbow Six Siege, let's go back to that. I don't have any clips of Rainbow Six Siege. They would be quite old, but when it comes through like wall, when you're talking about aiming through walls on stages, especially in Rainbow Six Siege, you can shoot enemies through walls. And a lot of the time, like you've got a lot of information. So like if your squad is dead, they can be on drones or on cameras, and they can be giving you information on where the enemy is. So if you're on like a soft wall and you get a ping where an enemy is, you can shoot through that wall and you can eliminate, you can kill the guy. So I've brought that concept to like, oh, you're aiming through walls. So like when you like, let's say you're rounding a door and like where the enemy is gonna be, so you're already aiming, and then you start pre-firing, right? You don't really do pre-firing in USPSA, but in video games, that's a common thing. So it's like mentally, when you're rounding a corner or like rounding a wall at a match or on a stage, then the second your sights clear that wall, you're like ready to shoot. So it's like you're like pre-engaging before your sights are there. And so like when you get that confirmation, then you start shooting. And I feel like video games are a really good way at teaching those kind of little skills that otherwise might take a while to develop. So, and that maybe that's unique to me. But it'd be interesting to hear what other gamers think over time. But anyways, that's really all I have to share on that, on the gaming clip side. But anyways, yeah.
The only other serious gamer shooter I can think of would be probably like Lucas Botkin comes to mind.
Okay.
I know he does his aim Botkin thing. I'm sure there's others, but
I'm not
he's the only
familiar with
one
that.
comes to mind. Are you familiar with his stuff, T-Rex Arms?
I know who Lucas Botkin is. I know T-Rex Arms. I know Brantley's part of the T-Rex team. But I don't know the aim Botkin. That sounds funny.
That's his big thing. Yeah. But really quick, can you explain to the viewers, because you're talking about like the video games and how that really helps you to process the visual stuff. A lot of newer shooters, they don't really understand like how important the vision is. Can you explain to the viewers, why is vision so important in shooting?
Well, if you don't know where you're shooting, then you're just going to hit kind of a general area. Like if you're not looking at a specific spot, then it's difficult to be intentional, I would say. And intentionality, like when it comes to points, you've got to be intentional about shooting the alpha to get those points. Same with small steel. If you're not intentional with looking at the steel at a small spot on the steel, it's going to be really difficult to hit those targets. And also, it comes down to also awareness of what your dot is doing. If your dot isn't steady, like if your feet aren't steady, if your dot's not steady, then you're just going to miss. It's going to be a frustrating experience where, oh, I can't hit that but then you can break down, why is this happening? Are my feet not stable? Is my dot not stable? Am I gripping the gun funny? But I feel like looking at a spot gives you that foundation of like what exactly you're looking for. If you're looking at a spot on a target, you know what to look for with your dot. So it all ties together. So that's important. Look at a small spot.
Do you target focus when you play Call of Duty? Or do you look at the dot?
I think when I find myself when I'm like let's say I'm smoking dudes and all of a sudden like I just choke and I'm like whatever, like that was embarrassing. I hope no one ever sees that because that happens in video games all the time still. It's like, but I find myself looking at the dot when I'm doing that. Like when I'm looking at the
Mm.
enemy where I want to shoot, it's funny because there is a little bit of target focus. It's Yeah, I would say target focus in video games. It does exist.
Do you think playing Call of Duty, do you think the shooting is as real as real life? Like the target focus and stuff?
Well, I mean, no, I would say not quite because it is still a video game, right?
Yeah.
There's not like the actual depth, and you've got pixels rather than like a nice bright red dot, and yeah, it's different. Yeah.
Okay. Damn. You make me want to go back and play Call of Duty, man. But I stopped playing after Modern Warfare 3, the original one. The
That's all right.
PS3 version. Yeah.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
So I guess we'll wrap up with one last question for you. So you made a comment earlier about talking about, people who know shooting and then there's people who know shooting, right? And I found often that the people who know shooting, you can ask them to name some of the instructors that they really like, and they can name drop. Well, this guy's really good at teaching this. This guy's really good at teaching this. But then people who think they know shooting, they're like, well, I know this YouTube guy, and I know this YouTube guy, right? Who are some of the instructors that you really like, and maybe there are some that you would look forward to training with?
Man, the only instructors that I've shot with are Ben and Joel. So Ben Steger and Joel Park. And with
Great combo.
Yeah, it is. So back in 2022 was when I took the Ben and Joel class, and that was the pistol fundamentals. Um, and that did teach me a lot. Funny enough, even at that time, I still don't think I knew kind of what I was even learning at that time. I was like, yeah, this is all really good information, but I don't think I utilized it the way I could. So looking back at that is like knowing who the instructors are before you get to teach that or before you take their class, kind of knowing their curriculum. And thankfully, Ben and Joel, they've got a bunch of YouTube stuff. So if you're unsure and you can go take a look and see the kind of the structure and the format of their class. So, but I do like the fundamentals of doubles and practical accuracy that comes from Ben, and that those two drills alone, I feel like helped really build the foundation. Um, when it comes to shooters or instructors that I would like to train with, there's a few that come to mind. Like I would love to shoot with Mason Lane. I would love to take a class from Brantley, like Tom Castro, just people who just different perspectives. I've been kind of training behind the mindset of Ben Steger and Joel Park for so long now that I think a different shift in perspective of training mindset and just how to think about training in different drills and stuff would be good for me. I don't want to get too stagnant, but I'm definitely interested in taking classes with those guys.
So you are you're like top 25 shooter, and you've only taken like one major class with Ben Steger and Joel Park. Because
Okay, I took one more class. I took another class last year in spring with Ben, and that was the advanced class. And that class was unfortunately rained out the second day, but we still shot in the rain. It was really uncomfortable. But so I've taken two classes with Ben, so that's kind of why I say I want to go and maybe branch out to some other instructors. But yeah, it really has been those two. I haven't really had the opportunity to shoot with other guys. So
that's incredible. I know guys, they'll probably take maybe 4 or more major classes in a year. And then going back to Lucas Botkin, one of his ideas is that really you only need to take like one, maybe two classes a year, and then just work on dry fire and solid fundamentals. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it, I guess it comes down to availability of
Mhm.
who is coming to your area, and if maybe if the person you're wanting to train with, if their schedule's open, then you could probably be the one to reach out and get that class scheduled, which is something I've considered myself. Um, but one class a year, at some point, I'm not like at this point that I'm at, I feel like I still have enough information and stuff that I need to go learn uh, before I want to take another class. It becomes kind of a backlog where if you're at the point where you haven't really processed the information that you've learned at that class, I wouldn't recommend taking another class until you really feel like you've learned what you can. Like if you really want to, go for it. If you've got the extra money, then yeah. But I would say if you've taken a class and you're looking at taking another class, but you really haven't done the homework from that previous class or from other matches, because I'm always taking notes of my matches and stuff. I would say take that class money, go buy ammo, and go practice what you need to practice, because it's easy to kind of treat classes as like I'm fixed now. Like this is my training, when it really should be kind of a culmination of like you're going there because you're looking for something specific. And if you keep going to classes without doing the work in between, you're just wasting money. That's my take on it, at least. And yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's I like that take. I think that's a good take.
thank you.
Yeah, that's why I haven't taken any other class because I'm still working on what you taught me, man.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
All right,
I love it.
man. I think we hit that hour and a half mark. So, and pretty much that's all the question we have for you. So for the viewers, where can they find you?
Really, I mean, you can find me on Instagram. I'm what's my handle? What's I don't go on Instagram much, as you can tell. I mean, I go on Instagram, but I don't post much. Ben Eggleston _MN. That's
Okay.
right. It's an
Uh,
homage to my home, which, I'm in Minnesota still. So,
do you have
but yeah,
like a YouTube account?
yeah, so if you go to my Instagram account, you can actually find my videos. I've got a YouTube channel where I'll occasionally post match footage, and I've got a backlog that I should get to editing. It wouldn't take too long. It's just one of those things that I sit in front of a computer a lot and I don't feel too motivated to post on socials. Um, yeah, that's really it. I just don't enjoy posting social media on much, but I do love watching people's content. Lately, I have been appreciating valuable content, especially in like USPSA, like people who are posting training content. I love to consume it because I'm trying to improve and I'm trying to find new ideas and kind of just shake things up a little bit and see what I can get out of this season. So yeah,
All right, man. Sounds good. I will put your Instagram in the description.
perfect.
So yeah, man. Anything else before we end this podcast? Anything you're working on? Anything new? Anything?
Ah, I'm just getting outdoor range access for the first time.
Nice.
I've been restricted to an indoor range, a single indoor range for the entirety of my shooting career, and I'm really
You're a
excited to see.
top 25 shooter, and you're just now getting access to an outdoor club. Wow.
Which one?
Yeah,
Forest Lake?
yeah, Forest
Okay.
Lake. I'm super pumped, and yeah, I'm excited to see what this will bring, because a lot of my deficiencies I feel from looking at my matches are just being able to shoot things at a distance. So really that's what I'm most excited for, is kind of saving my ammo budget for the practice and trying to move that from just indoor practices to outdoor practices. The range is still an hour away, so it's not close. but I'm gonna make the most as I can of those outdoor practice sessions. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. So
Yeah, I'm still on the waiting list for Forest Lake. Yeah.
it's a long waiting
Yep.
list.
Yep.
I'm spoiled. I've got my own farm, so it's just 10 minutes down the road, and I'm
Oh
going
my
to.
goodness.
I've got a range there, and then I've got to rent an excavator, and I'm going to dig it properly because right now it's
Yeah.
just kind of like one big lane. So I've got to build up the sidewalls and everything. So I'm a bit spoiled. So I have no excuse for not training.
I mean, at some point, it's like maybe it's a double-edged sword because you burn through your ammo too fast. And it's like if I had access to that, I would be probably spending more money than I would want to on ammo. So it's kind of been nice having a limit on what I feel like I can get away with. So it's like I spread those out a little bit more, but really indoors it's been I do doubles and I do practical accuracy. I do like, shoot partial targets and stuff. Lately I've been putting the target horizontally and I've got these little stickers that I can put like 3 or 4 on and do like a little bit of target transition there, send it down to like 10 yards, 15 yards and see what I can do. But it's been a challenge, and every time I see people on Instagram with like doing outdoor drills and everything, I'm just like a lot of FOMO. I'm like, man, imagine if that was me. Like, where can I be?
Of
So
all people, yes,
yeah,
you absolutely should get access.
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm really excited. So, but if you have any questions on social media, feel free to reach out on Instagram, and yeah, look forward to see where the season goes.
All right, man. Sounds good, dude. All right. I guess we will wrap this up. So, thanks for joining us tonight, and I will see you this Saturday for the second outdoor match in Minnesota.
Yeah,
I'm
right
excited.
on.
All right,
Perfect.
man. You guys have a good night.
All right, you too. Take
All right.
care.
I'm gonna stop recording right now.